I want to put into words what I know probably many of you guys are feeling about the game right now, but maybe haven't been able to fully express. And no, this is not going to be another Why World of Tanks is Dying video, and this video isn't just going to be about the recent tiered loot boxes that came out. Today, I want to actually talk about something that is bigger, that has a deeper history than just this past year. And it actually has nothing to do with the game's gameplay, has nothing to do with how pay to win it is, how sucky the grind is, how bad the matchmaker can be, or how stale the game has become over the past few years. What I want to share is a realization that I had that helped me understand why this game, World of Tanks, always feels like it's dying, despite the fact that the game has made decent progress over the past few years. And that's a great place to dive right in, because I know some of you guys are probably saying right now, what progress? And that exact intuition that you are probably having right now is what I want to talk about. I want to explain the psychological state that you are probably feeling towards the game and how wargaming has really conditioned all of us to have it. In truth, I could probably sit here and list off a myriad of tangible, real, positive changes that have been done to the game over the years. But I have a distinct feeling that despite Crew 2.0 being a shining example of where wargaming actually listened to our feedback, despite a new matchmaker being on the horizon, despite a removed map coming back to the game, and Tier 10 finally receiving some of the major balancing changes that it's needed for years, that any of that would actually change the way you feel about the game right now. And to be more specific, the feeling that I am talking about is exhausted hopelessness and the complete lack of trust between us and wargaming. And it's not like wargaming isn't aware of any of this. This past year alone, we've had 5 major monetized events. We've had 3 loot boxes, 1 major auction, and of course, the tiered loot boxes that we just had. And the community hasn't exactly been silent on all of this. They know exactly how we feel. So how can we reconcile these two worlds? One where wargaming seems to be trying to make decent and sometimes even great changes, and the other one where they are just dead set on milking this game till its last drop. To explain this all, I've come up with 2 theories. The first is much more charitable, while the second one is much more grim. Both theories I'm about to share point to a much larger cycle, one that explains exactly why World of Tanks always feels like it's dying. The truth probably lies in between these two, but understanding them will help us make better sense of the emotional roller coaster that we've all been on. The first theory is going to be much more charitable. Wargaming, like other companies, is not a monolith, meaning it's a company with departments. The dev team might genuinely be trying to improve the game, however slowly and carefully, but making an effort nonetheless. Reworking maps, making balance changes, and probably pushing out far too many loot box tanks, but at least they're listening some of the time. And meanwhile, the monetization department is just going full throttle. And the reason why is because they probably confirmed something that they had known for a while now. And that is that Ultra Whales and Whales, the top spenders, will never draw a line in this game. And the Waffentrager E100 event from this year proved that. Despite it having a massive price tag, this tank sold out in either seconds or minutes of its release during the auction. And as pretty much any company would probably do, they probably said, well, why hold back? Especially if they don't need the approval of the entire player base anymore, and they just need to cater towards the whales to meet their financial goals. And to anybody outside looking at this, it seems as if you have 2 parts of the company that are out of sync. One trying to actually build something decent and sometimes great, and the other one is just steamrolling forward with its increasing amount of bullshit. Simply put, there are too many cooks in the kitchen, there's no decisive menu, and the only aftertaste that we're left with is from the disgusting amount of monetization that is being pushed on us. Now, the second theory I want to talk about is much more dark, and it assumes that most of what wargaming is doing is actually calculated, that the development of the game and the timing of these monetization events is not just coincidental, but is timed and strategically placed. Meaning that wargaming isn't just making good changes to build goodwill and trust between the player base, but is using it as more of a currency. Said simply, they are using this little bump of goodwill built up between the players and the company as currency to push through more aggressive monetization in their next event. If you're looking for great examples of this, just think back to the Holiday Ops and how great everybody feels during the event. You have the release of the British double-barreled heavy tanks, and then the next 3 months are just filled with monetization event after monetization event. And it certainly doesn't feel coincidental when we have the first major balance update of the year, followed by something that is just amazingly aggressive for monetization in the form of tiered loot boxes. And you can go back and really see this pattern over the past 2 to 3 years. And I obviously know that correlation is not causation, but the amount of quality of life changes also correlates with the amount of aggressive monetization changes as well. And that's why all of this feels slightly manipulative, because every good change starts to feel like bait. I certainly want to be hopeful, but every single time I am, history repeats itself and it proves that I shouldn't be. Essentially, we are stuck in an abuse-reward cycle with wargaming. And it's this whiplash cycle between being told that we're having something that has been broken for so long finally being fixed, to the next week being sold a Waffenträger 100 for 100,000 gold, that makes it feel as if that there is almost this breaking of our two worlds. And this type of back and forth is exactly what keeps us from ever feeling that the game is improving or that it has any type of defined direction other than just making money. And over time, this whiplash doesn't just make us mad, it feeds into the hopeless feeling about this game. That's what makes the game feel like it's dying. Being caught in between these two worlds where we're trying to project something that we want the game to be and meeting the reality of what wargaming is pushing the game towards. Now, all of this isn't to say that there aren't gameplay related reasons of why some people believe the game is dying, or at the very least, on its decline. What I'm trying to explain here is more of the mentality and is deeper. It's why the game never feels like it's improving, even when progress has been made. Why it feels like the game has no direction, and why wargaming can't seem to earn credit for any good changes that they've actually made. And in a way, it also explains why we keep playing this game. My girlfriend always asks me, if this game always makes you so mad, then why not just play another game and quit? But that's the thing. The emotional volatility, the highs and the lows, that makes this game so addicting, it's basically like a toxic relationship. And just like in a toxic relationship, you want to continually go back to it and try to save it. And perhaps that's the saddest part about this all. It's not like the game is beyond saving. It's not some broken shell without a future. World of Tanks has so much potential, but what makes this so painful is how good we know the game could be. Every time wargaming announces a good change, there's part of us that wants to believe that, wow, maybe this is actually a good direction that they're heading in. Maybe they will turn around. And a part of us still holds that hope. And that hope is rooted in real potential that the game still has. But when that hope continually gets squashed over and over and over again by either monetization changes or gameplay related decisions that are made in development, it starts to feel like betrayal. Like the version that we were drawn to, like the version that we actually believe in, that we know the game can be, is being killed. And it's not because wargaming doesn't have the resources to actualize it. It's not because the feedback's not there. It's because they've heard us and they choose not to care. That's what makes this feel hopeless. And that's what makes the game feel like it's dying. And unfortunately for us, wargaming knows they have this market on lock. There is no other game like World of Tanks. And keeping the players who have probably sunk thousands of hours and dollars into this game isn't really all that hard. They basically just throw us a bone every once in a while. And it's gotten to the point where we've been mistreated for so long that when the dead tank gun bug has not been fixed for an entire 6 months, and meanwhile you have a limited time game mode where the invisibility bug is fixed within 2 days, that's just normal business for us. And then we just go along playing the game anyways. Mind you, that this is the same company that has all the resources and super testers to push out loot box tanks like clockwork, but not enough to fix the British wheeled mediums or the Type 5 Heavy that was promised to us 2 years ago. And we haven't had a single truly new map in 2 years, but somehow Wargaming is able to create 2 new games with entirely new maps. It's not like they can't, it's that they won't. Their priorities are clear, and it's obviously not us. And maybe that's the most telling part of all of this, is that we've been treated this way for so long that when wargaming finally does anything decent, we pretend it's a miracle. And I'm a part of this. I was really happy when I saw that Swamp was getting reworked. I was really happy that the matchmaker was being fixed. Truth be told, this stuff should have been fixed 3 years ago. It should have been. When a basic quality of life fix is made, or long overdue buff is finally introduced to the game, suddenly it's a celebration in this game. And given the history, it's a little bit sad that we have to celebrate this much. Other studios, like a game like Warframe, the developers love developing the game. They love making the game better for players. It's kind of honestly sad. We've basically been conditioned to celebrate the bare minimum. So is it really any wonder why we don't trust wargaming? And that leads me to the last thing I want to talk about. And that is September. September is coming in less than 3 months, and nobody knows anything about the update. That is worrying. Like, we don't know if it's something game-changing like Tier 11, if there's going to be new mechanics, if there's going to be new game modes, or a massive system overhaul, but the one thing that almost everybody is certain of is that there's going to be some type of monetization. And if, God forbid, this is paired with something like a half-baked Tier 11 release, where it's not well thought through and it's not absolutely perfect, that's going to be a huge problem. In fact, it'll be the last problem that this game has. If what is coming in September is nothing short of perfect, well thought through, and player focused, this will be the final nail. And it's not as if the game is going to die like the next day. It'll be a choice between whether this game lives for another 10 years, dominating this niche, or if it'll die out in the next 5. That will be the decision. And in the meanwhile, all of this monetization is damage which I'm really not sure if the game is going to ever recover from. And it's up to Wargaming whether they get to choose to continue with these tiered loot boxes and just basically alienate and slowly destroy the soul of what this game was about in the first place. If they want to fix this, it won't be through some PR statement where they say, oh, we're sorry. That's not going to be enough. And it's certainly not going to be with some golden promise which they'll go back on. It has to start with consistency, with actual respect for the players who have stuck around and who've been playing this game for forever, with monetization that actually feels like it's a part of the game instead of just being the whole entire purpose. That is the only way that this cycle can be broken, and that is the only way that the relationship between wargaming and the player base will ever be fixed. If this is not fixed, then the game will continually go in circles and spiral towards its end. It'll always feel like it's dying, even if it is slowly progressing towards something marginally better. Well, that was depressing. That's all I got, guys. Leave your comments, your thoughts down below if you enjoyed this video. Hit the subscribe button. I'll be putting out more, hopefully soon. And I hope I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.